Steeler Nation, what is going on? The time has come, the most exciting time of the NFL offseason, and that is draft week. In just mere days, the NFL draft will be upon us, and we will finally get to see who the next branch of Pittsburgh Steelers will be. And today, guys, we present to you our final Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft for the 2025 NFL season.
This is our fourth and final Pittsburgh Steelers mock draft for the 2025 NFL draft season. We appreciate you guys for tuning in for all the draft content leading up to draft week. As you guys know, we will be live Thursday and Friday night for day one and day two, which should be a very exciting couple of days to find out who will be the next branch of Pittsburgh Steelers. And in this mock, we do entertain something that we did in our previous mock, which is one, going defensive line early into the draft in the first round and trading back, because the more I think about it, the more I look at the Steelers' top 30 visits, man. You look at everyone that they brought in, you look at where they're projected, you look at where they're looking to go come day one and day two. It seems like they're really telling you without officially telling you that, yeah, they are planning or they are going to be entertaining the idea of trading back, because they're bringing in a lot of round 2, round 3 type guys that I don't know if are going to last all the way to pick 83. So thus trading back could allow them to get a pick in between such and grab another position that they're going to need, such as receiver, running back, corner, safety, maybe even quarterback. That's what we do in this mock draft, is we trade back again. In our last mock, we trade back with the Buffalo Bills. This time around, we don't trade back as far. We trade back with the Houston Texans, who have pick 25, 4 picks after us. The Texans have a little bit of capital to trade away, to trade up in front of the Chargers, and the Steelers are going to be all ears because they could trade back, get extra capital, and still get one of their potential guys they brought in for a top 30 visit in the first round. That's exactly what we do. So we trade back from pick 21 in this mock with the Houston Texans. The Steelers trade the 21st pick to Houston only for pick 25 and pick 79. So we get an extra day 2 pick. We get 25, 79, and 83 with the first 3 picks of this mock. And because we traded back, we get an extra day 2 pick and can still select one of the Steelers' top options, and arguably the only legitimate first-round option that the Steelers have shown true interest in at the defensive line position. We did consider other positions such as quarterback, even receiver, because they did bring in a Golden, or even corner, because frankly, the Steelers have brought in anyone of serious contendership in the first round at every position you can think of, even running back.
Various positions, yes. They brought in a first-round quarterback. They brought in a first-round running back. They brought in a first-round wide receiver. They brought in a first-round cornerback. They brought in a first-round safety even. So it's like they have, really scaled every field, basically. They have looked at every option, when it comes to the first round on who could be best player available, or, when it comes to positions of need. They have looked at every option as you would expect them to do.
Yeah, they have. And that's why in this one, we really entertained all those options just to kind of keep an open mind, because frankly, I don't know where the Steelers are going to go. I don't. But what I think they should go, and something that has been very consistent in literally all of our mocks all offseason, pre-free agency and now post-free agency, is defensive line. We think defensive line should be the pick at 21, or in this mock, I picked 25 if they trade back. Either way, I think in round 1, the most ideal pick would be defensive line. And the only first-round defensive lineman that they did bring in for a top 30 visit is Derek Harmon out of Oregon. I love a Kenneth Grant. I like a Walter Nolan. But the interest just isn't there as much as it is for a Harmon. So if you think that they're going to go defensive lineman, if he's still there, you got to think Derek Harmon is probably going to be the likeliest option for the Steelers. And I do think that is the most realistic option at the end of the day, no matter where they stand in the first round, is Derek Harmon. We did consider quarterback because they did bring in Jackson Dart. They did bring in Shedeur Sanders. I don't have a first-round grade on Jackson Dart, and I think taking him at 21 would be a reach. I think taking him in the first round regardless would be a reach. Even if they trade back, it's a little more digestible, but still a reach for a guy like Dart. I don't think he makes it out of the first, but I don't think the Steelers should be reaching on a guy like Dart. They already been there, done that a couple years ago.
Yes, they have.
Shedeur Sanders, I know everyone is getting their hopes up that he could fall to 21. And I'm not going to lie to you, the closer and closer we get to draft night, it seems to be a legitimate possibility. But at the same time, I do think he won't be there. I don't know if the Saints are going to take him. Maybe the Giants take him at 3 since they had a last personal workout with him a couple days ago. Maybe a team trades back up to grab him after taking, I don't know, maybe like the Browns. Like they might go Travis Hunter, and then they might trade back up and get a Shedeur Sanders, or vice versa with so many other teams. Someone could trade up and still grab a guy like Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't mind taking him at 21. I wouldn't hate the Shedeur Sanders pick at all, as a matter of fact. But we have stood on the hill all offseason. We don't think quarterback should be the pick in the first round. And that's why we're going to stick to our guns and go with defensive line again. Although it may be a little repetitive in our mocks, we go defensive line again in this one. And with the 25th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Derek Carman, defensive lineman out of Oregon. We need youth. We need interior pressure. We need to stop the run. We need an all-around baller at the defensive line group, and we need to get younger, and we need an eventual replacement for Cam Hayward. The Steelers have a prime opportunity to fix all that in one selection with a guy like Derek Carman. It's the only first-round defensive lineman they've shown interest in, and this guy models and plays just like Cameron Hayward. And why not have him be taught under Cam Hayward with defensive lineman Carl Dunbar? And anywhere you want to put him on day one, you want to put him at the nose and move Benton to 3-tech opposite of Hayward, you could do that. If you think Harmon is so ready enough to give you that interior pressure, to get that pass rush upside, to be that 3-down player immediately, you could keep Ben at nose where he's been playing the last 2 years. You can put Harmon opposite of Hayward. And either way, that versatility and the way you could balance those two players, those two young studs, under a guy like Hayward, I think that's a great way to go for the defensive line, where Omar Khan, Andy Waddle, they have shown you the past couple draft classes, it's all about building the trenches. They have that Howie Roseman, Philadelphia Eagles mentality. They want to fix where it begins, which is in the trenches. Without the trenches, you don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the mentality that the Steelers, with Andy Waddle and Omar Khan especially, that's what they're trying to bring to the table, building the trenches and whatnot. It's the pattern that they've gone with as the previous two draft classes that they've done, at least in the first round, with Omar Khan as the general manager and Andy Waddle being the assistant general manager with Jones and Fatanu. The pattern is the trenches. I believe that will be the case right here, especially if Harmon is there on the board. And we talked about him in a single video just last week about, his versatility, his motor, his talent. I mean, he just oozes his youth. He just oozes talent. He's a very talented individual, a big body, a 6'4", 313 pounds, 21 years old, and he just burst onto the scene in his lone season with Oregon. I mean, 45 combined tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 43 hurries, 5 sacks, 7 quarterback hits, 4 passes defended, and 2 forced fumbles. I mean, this is a guy that can do it all.
And this is a guy that has 2 years of starting experience at the defensive lineman position at the collegiate level, because he had his first 3 years at Michigan State, and he had sporadical starts in between, 2022 before getting a full starting spot in 2023, and then transferring to Oregon and burst onto the scene and is now getting a lot of first-round buzz. And again, the only first-round defensive lineman that the Steelers brought in for a top 30 visit. And I don't know what their preference is in the first round. Nobody does, because they have brought in all options at several positions. But if they want to go defensive line, if they want to fix the trenches, Derek Harmon, whether they stay put at 21 or they trade back, either way, I think that would be a home run selection. A guy like Derek Harmon is someone you could bring in on day one, make an immediate impact. Again, anywhere you want to put him would be a good fit. And he's an all-around great player that the Steelers need. He's someone that can do everything. My only issue with him is he needs to slow it down. He needs to finish the sacks. He needs to finish plays. But I think with time, that will come, that will follow. But his explosiveness off the line, his quick first step, his violent hands, and the way he gets to the quarterback and is able to disrupt the line of scrimmage at a moment's notice the second the ball is snapped, is something we need to get back to, especially with how the Steelers love their 4-man rushes. And last year, they succeeded for the first part of the season, but towards the end, not so much. The defense got too predictable. If they want to stick with the 4-man rushes, you got to get that interior pressure. First of all, you need to play Benton more, because one of his biggest upsides is his pass rush ability, and that's what Harmon brings to the table as well, while still stopping the run anywhere you want to line him on the D-line. He can take on double teams. He can clog holes. He can clog any lane that the running back's going to go with, and that just allows a lot of guys to work along that front seven. That's why we think a guy like Derek Harmon in the first round would be the ideal selection at the end of the day. So we go Derek Harmon after trading back with the Texans to get pick 25 and still select a guy like Harmon. Moving on, man. Now, we traded back and we got 25 and 79 from the Houston Texans. So with the 79th pick, this could go anywhere. This could go running back. This could go receiver. This could go corner. We elected to go wide receiver here. Not running back. Not yet. Not yet. We have a pick four slots later, but we don't go running back yet. And as a matter of fact, we go wide receiver because if you noticed with the top 30 visits, the Steelers have brought in a couple second-round worthy wide receivers. That's Jaden Higgins. That's Savion Williams. That's Jalen Noel. Guys like that. They have brought in a couple second-round worthy receivers that make you kind of open your eyes. Could they go receiver early? They love their day two receivers. Everybody knows that. They selected Roman Wilson last year. George Pickens, not too long ago, was a day two selection. A lot of the Steelers receivers that they've had for the past couple of years have been day two receivers, and I don't think that's going to change. And you got to think, Calvin Austin is in his last year of his rookie contract. Could the Steelers bring him back? Potentially. But he could also see a decent market where the Steelers might not want to pay him as much. They got Roman Wilson, who was unfortunately out all of his rookie season. We'll see what he can do. We'll see what he can bring to the table. You got George Pickens coming into his last year. Nobody knows the future on Pickens. You got DK that's locked up for the next 5 years, which is great. But you can never have too many good weapons at the wide receiver room, and you can never be complacent with where you're at. You could always plan for the future, especially with two guys coming into contract years. So that's why we go receiver here and with someone that they did bring in for a top 30 visit. So with the 79th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jalen Noel, wide receiver out of Iowa State. Like I mentioned, they brought in Jaden Higgins, who was Noel's partner in crime, his teammate, and they brought in Noel. So they have looked at both Iowa State cats at the wide receiver position, and why wouldn't they? They're both stud. They're both massive playmakers, and what Jalen Noel brings to the table is speed, separation, route running ability, a lot of explosiveness, and very strong hands, man. The way he's able to concentrate the ball, the way he's able to make plays down the field in tight coverage while still being able to separate. This is what the Steelers need at wide receiver, and almost like a contingency plan, either at the slot or I even think he's capable of working outside.
5'10", 194 pounds. But again, very speedy, and that comes from his background in track. That is a big component. That's very evident in his game, and that helps with his growth and separation and just, beating off the press and whatnot with that speed. And in his last season, his senior year, he finished with 80 catches, 1,193 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Pairing greatly with Jaden Higgins, like we mentioned multiple times. He's just a very, very reliable wide receiver.
And what I like about Noel is his ability to just be a bigger receiver than what his body and what his frame shows. I know he's 5'10". He's a little on the smaller side, but 194, lightning fast speed, and incredible strength at the wide receiver position, which means he can beat press off the line of scrimmage. He can create separation with that speed, with his footwork. He can catch the ball anywhere on the field and make plays. He's a big playmaker anywhere you want to line him up. And what Omar Khan mentioned about the wide receiver position, about the offense in general, is they want playmakers. And on day 2, look no further than a guy like Jalen Noel.
Just a catch like that. Defender's right in front of him, and he's just able to concentrate and make a catch on the ball right there. It goes to show, his hands are very reliable, very good. He's a natural when he's got the ball in his hands. He's a yak guy as well. He's a guy that can do it all. And again, yeah, his size, he's a slot wide receiver. He's typical, with his size like that. He's a prototypical slot wide receiver. But I think he's very, very capable, more than capable of playing outside if he needs to. He didn't play as many outside reps, obviously, in Iowa State, but I feel like he's more than capable. When I see him play, when I see his tape and whatnot, and just see how he's able to play and his play style on the field is very reminiscent of a rookie wide receiver last year from Tampa Bay. I'm talking about Jalen McMillan.
Yeah, I see that. A little smaller, but I do see like the playmaking ability and what he's able to do down the field, and how Baker had that that confidence to give him the ball and what McMillan's able to do. I definitely see that a lot. I see a lot of people also giving him comps to like a Lad McConkey. I see that as well. I mean, this is just how much of a playmaker that I think he'll be at the next level. And for the Steelers to show interest, man, I'm just saying I wouldn't roll out wide receiver very early, and that's why we go wide receiver here to try to change it up a little bit while also looking at what the Steelers are trying to do for the future, looking at where they're at and how they want to revamp the entire wide receiver position. I like the depth. I like what we have at the room right now, but you also got to think of the future. You got to think of how can we continue to add more to this position. And nobody knows what the future holds for the wide receiver position and for the quarterback position. So as many receivers as you can get, as many playmakers you can get, you're going to make any quarterback happy, and it's going to make this offense faster and more explosive, which we really need to start adding. We need to add playmakers like Null. So that's why we go Null here, trading back with the Texans, getting the 79th pick, and still selecting him pretty early into the 3rd round. Moving on, 4 picks later, we have the 83rd overall pick, the Steelers pick here. We got to go running back because I don't know how far that we can push back running back. You know, I know people can say, you know, you can take a running back in rounds 4 or 5 or whatever and get a speed demon and get someone to pair with Warren. I'm looking at someone that is going to bring speed, but is someone that could lead the backfield for a while. And frankly, I don't know if anyone in rounds 4 and 5 can be that guy. You can probably find someone that will lead the charge for a short period of time pretty well in those rounds, but I'm thinking of someone that's going to pair with Warren, someone that's really going to take the workload from Warren and not necessarily be the bell cow, but be like that explosive playmaker, that shifty guy, that speed demon that we really need to get back to in the backfield, that playmaking ability while running the rock, pairing with Warren. I don't know if you can find that in the mid rounds. I feel like that the value somewhat drops after round 3 at the running back position. It is a deep position this year, but I feel like round 3, round 2, if they trade back, you know, day 2 in general, I feel like it's a sweet spot for running back.
No, I agree. And running back position is something that they have to address for sure. You know, Warren, he's going to be given a true opportunity to be the lead back, at least to start the regular season, of course. You know, they brought in Kenneth Gainwell, who's, you know, very familiar with being a backup running back and just being in rotations and whatnot with his time in Philadelphia. And I think Cordell Patterson is still with the team. I don't know if he's actually going to stick around for this upcoming season or if they're just going to cut him. You know, maybe after they look at a running back or draft a running back, it really depends. But, you know, it's the fact of the matter that they got to add another young back and they got to just add another back in general just to pair with Warren and even Gainwell at that and just have a revolving door of running backs, considering Arthur Smith likes to rotate his backs. He loves to utilize his backs, and he's all about running the football. And that's what the Steelers are trying to get back to.
And that's what we do with the 83rd pick here, man. We selected this guy in a mock before. I believe it was our first post-free agency mock draft. We selected him at the 83rd pick, and we kind of copy that with this one here. And the Steelers did bring him in for a top 30 visit, so interest is there. And you know the Steelers are going to select a running back at some point. And at 83 is kind of the sweet spot in our opinion. If they want to take one earlier, that's even more ideal because I think you can get better value there with a potential trade back scenario. But in this one, we wait to the 83rd overall pick to go running back. And with the 83rd overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select DJ Giddens, running back out of Kansas State. He's a little bit of a taller back, 6 foot, 212. So he's a little bigger, which, I mean, I think we could use a bigger back for sure. But he's got speed. He's got shiftiness. He's got that explosive nature off the line of scrimmage. He's got that dual threat ability as a receiving back, which he shows here in some of these clips. And what I like about him is his contact balance, his footwork, his vision, the way he's able to find lanes and get up the field, and the way he's able to trick these linebackers or these defenders in the secondary with his shiftiness, with his body control, with his footwork. He'll have a defender going one way, and then he'll zip up halfway across the field in a moment's notice. He's a very quick, very knowledgeable back with the ball in his hands. And I think that's what we need to get back to in the backfield for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what I like about him is 2 years of starting experience with the Wildcats, very productive player in each of those 2 seasons with 1,200 plus rushing yards in each of those seasons, man. And touchdown machine as well.
Touchdown machine and also a speedy back. I mean, his build is pretty big again, 6 foot 212, as you see right there. But the speed just shows on tape right there. He ran a 4.43 at the NFL Combine. His patient run style, his vision, his ability to find open space between the tackles and just fight off defenders and whatnot. He's a physical back. And ball security is fabulous. I mean, what, 2 seasons in, he carried the ball 428 times. He only had 1 fumble out of those carries. So, and the Steelers are very, very adamant about protecting the football and making sure that that they don't lose a turnover battle or whatnot. I mean, this guy, just oozes that to a T. He will make sure that he does not lose that ball. He does not fumble the ball. His ball security is A plus, absolutely. And he's very versatile at that too, with his ability to catch out the backfield.
I agree. And he wouldn't be the day one starter because that's going to be put in for Warren. But if you want to bring him in on third downs, or if you want to see if he has 3-down potential, he can grow throughout, his first season or so, where he'll kind of be that change of pace back. He could be that third down receiving guy if you want him to. He can work on his physicality a little bit in terms of pass protection and the way he blocks in the pocket alongside the quarterback. That's probably the only real issue with a guy like Giddens, is he needs to work on his pass pro. But, the Steelers love their back-on-backers drills and training camp. They're going to work him there. And that's a great way to kind of get him ready for that position where he can really live up to that 3-down potential with the speed, with the receiving upside. Once he gets that locked down, we could be looking at somebody that could lead the backfield, that could lead the charge for the rushing attack for the Pittsburgh Steelers for a couple years. That's why we like DJ Giddens. He's someone that grew on me very quickly with the more film I watched, and the way he's able to make plays up the field with what he's able to do at the running back position. The Steelers showing interest. I really like him as a day 2 option, man. I would love him to be a pick anywhere for the Steelers come day 2 and to pair with Warren. Again, he wouldn't be the starter early on, but he's someone that could build his way up, be that change of pace, rotate with Warren, be used in certain situations. I think it would really help us get to, a very nice explosive backfield where Warren is that trucker. He gets those tough yardage. He's got some burst to him. He doesn't have the long speed that DJ Giddens has, but that's why you bring in a guy like Giddens for that home rush ability. And I think he'd be a very good fit in Arthur Smith's wide zone scheme. So that's why we go Giddens here at the 83rd overall. Just a big playmaker, someone that Omar Khan has definitely considered at the running back position with the top 30 visit. And what Omar Khan said is, we need playmakers. Look no further than a guy like DJ Giddens, one of my more favorite day 2 running backs for the Steelers to select.
Yeah, you're looking to add upon speed, brutality, and physicality to the backfield, pairing Warren and Giddens together. And Giddens, man, he's got a lot of talent, a lot of promise, and a lot of potential at that. There's a lot to like about DJ Giddens.
Absolutely. Now, moving on to day 3, the 4th round pick, the 123rd pick. This could go anywhere. This could go corner. This could go safety. This could go defensive line. You can go anywhere. Quarterback, potentially. In this one, we go defensive line, because one thing we have made very predominant in a lot of our mocks, and we're going to keep it going with this one, is double dipping at D-line. And I think the Steelers got to do it early. You're going to need somebody to pair, with Logan Lee, someone to challenge DeMarvin Leal and Loudermilk and all the other guys that are in that room for depth. Monty Adams, you're going to need a replacement for him. And I'm thinking around that selection, around the 4th round, defensive line is so deep, you could get a very good value pick here and someone that will provide very good depth initially, but maybe someone the Steelers could build up to be a future starter, and particularly someone that could play the nose later on down the road. Because the way we're looking at is Hayward's not going to be here forever, as we know. He can still ball, but he's not going to be here forever. We selected Derek Harmon. We got Keanu Ben. I feel like those two are going to be the future, DNs at the 3-4 scheme for the Steelers. We need a pure nose eventually. They could get that in the 1st round, but I'm looking at depth purposely, and I'm looking for someone that they could build up and go through the ranks and see what he can do, leading up to when his opportunity comes at that position, when Hayward retires, when a spot opens up. And I think we go with someone that the Steelers did bring in for a top 30 visit and just so happens to be teammates with Derek Harmon. So why change it? So with the 123rd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Jamari Caldwell, interior defensive lineman out of Oregon, 6'2", 332. Man, that is a pure nose if I've ever seen one. This guy is an incredible run stuffer, something we got to get back to, someone that will provide great depth behind Adams, behind Hayward, behind Harmon, behind Benton. Someone that can come in on goal line situations, someone that can come in on obvious rundowns to get his feet wet and close the gaps. He is very violent at the line, very violent at the snap. And I like his pass rush upside. He's not the greatest pass rusher. He won't really get too much interior pressure, but that's why he would come in and be potentially the future nose here.
And Caldwell, in his lone season as a Oregon Duck, because he did play for Houston back in 2023 where he started 10 games. He transferred to Oregon. He started all 14 games last year, again in his lone season, and he made a huge impact as their starting nose tackle right there. A true interior defensive lineman that is built to play the nose. He's got very quick feet for his size and hustle for his size of a man of his stature is pretty insane. Like you stated, dominant against the run, especially against double teams. When you look at his big frame and just how quick he is, he's also very strong, of course. He's just able to take on those double teams and able to stop the run. So he's very intelligent about that, very good at that. And again, like he shows flashes as a pass rusher in one-on-one situations. So as a man that could start off as a depth role, come in and compete for a depth position, he's also got a lot of upside to develop under Carl Dunbar and just work his way into a starting lineup down the road. Now, he is 24 years old, so he's a little bit on the older side since he played quite a couple years in college there. A guy like Caldwell can start off his depth, work his way up with a lot of upside, work with Carl Dunbar, and Caldwell back with his old teammate where they only shared one season together so far. Why not select him in the 4th round, Caldwell, and pair him with Harmon and just bring that deadly duo, that dominant duo, to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, keep that chemistry in the locker room. Keep that chemistry on the D-line. Projectively for the future, you would have Harmon eventually be the Hayward replacement. You would eventually have Caldwell be the future nose, in my opinion. He wouldn't be a day one starter, but great depth that could build his way up, like we mentioned. And somebody that, the Steelers have definitely shown interest in. They sent Kelvin Fisher to the Oregon Pro Day. They brought him in for a top 30 visit. And the Steelers love to double dip in the same school. They love to double dip in the same college. They've done that for many years now. And, if the Steelers have a prime opportunity to bring in both Oregon cats for their defensive line to build the trenches and fix that.
Hey, that's something I can get behind. With pick 123 right there, I can see the Steelers absolutely double dipping at defensive line, just bolstering the trenches even more so, just keeping that duo together.
Yeah, I think Harmon is a huge sleeper for day 3. I think he's going to be a fantastic depth piece and someone I wouldn't sleep on to build his way up to be a very, very quality starter, someone that will be a great plug guy for the run defense, someone that's going to fill the gaps, someone that's going to take on double teams, someone with the size that we need. We need that big frame, that big body in the middle of that D-line that is going to literally prevent the running back to go nowhere and be stonewalled. That's what we need to get back to, and that's why we like Caldwell a lot here in the 4th round. Double dip at Oregon, bring in both defensive linemen, and bring that chemistry, bring that back to, we'll bring them back together in the black and gold in Pittsburgh.
And just get back, not to interrupt you, but just get back to truly stopping the run, because that's what the Steelers need to do. That's what they need to get back to. They're all about run the football and stopping a run. Well, they got to do both.
Agreed. Moving on to the 5th round, the 156th pick. You've noticed we haven't taken a quarterback yet. Now we will. I don't know where they're going to go quarterback. Could be 1st round, could be 3rd round, could be 4th round, could be later. It's very unpredictable. They have checked off all their options. They've brought in Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders for top 30 visits. They brought in Tyler Shuck for a top 30 visit. They even brought in Kyle McCord for a top 30 visit. And I don't know exactly where they're going to go quarterback, but I feel like if they're going to go a quarterback, they're going to bring in someone that has that, familiarity with the top 30 visits, somebody that, they have shown a lot of interest in, somebody that they have seen personally. That could be, maybe someone they didn't bring in for a top 30 visit based off of who they sent to who's pro day, such as like Ohio State with Will Howard or Alabama with Jalen Murrow, pro days that they sent the house to, and they got to see them up close and personal and had dinner with those two individuals. We don't go with either of them here. We don't. In fact, we go with a quarterback they did bring in for a top 30 visit, because you notice a trend. A lot of their draft classes, especially the last couple of years, that's been a big, almost check mark for anyone that they select You look at a lot of the selections they made in the past couple of years. That's a massive, to do for the Steelers when it comes to bringing in a prospect and then selecting said prospect. And I feel like with the quarterback position, that's going to be the exact same case. So in the 5th round, with the 156th pick, we go quarterback, and we go Kyle McCord, quarterback out of Syracuse, formerly the Ohio State. Kyle McCord, 6'3", 218, 22 years old, and an absolute gunslinger. He might not have the arm strength for the NFL. He might not have the greatest arm talent. He's definitely not the most athletic. If I had to give you a big negative for him, is he is not mobile. He's not athletic whatsoever, which could be trouble for him in the pocket. But what I like about him standing in the pocket is he is composed, and he will absolutely give his receivers the chance. His ball placement is probably his biggest positive. His ball placement, his accuracy, the way he's able to give his receivers every ability to win wherever they're on the field, wherever the ball is targeted. He always puts the ball in a position where only the wide receiver can catch the football, where the defender, where the corner can't get any reach on the ball. That's the biggest positive I can give about a guy like Kyle McCord. And last year, he led all of college in passing yards with very, very, very well close to 5,000. Now, I will mention, yes, he did have the most passing attempts out of any quarterback by I believe, almost 70 more passing attempts than the next guy, and that's the quarterback from LSU, Newsheimer. So, yes, he might have the most passing yards out of any quarterback last year, along to go with 34 touchdowns and 12 picks, but he also had a lot of passing attempts, which, I mean, I think that's a great stat for him in terms of what he can do at the quarterback position. He can throw the ball. He is a little bit of a gunslinger. He's not afraid to throw the ball. He's very capable of taking the ball in his hands and finding success. And I would say he transferred from Ohio State, and he had a good year in 2023, but he transferred out of Ohio State, went to Syracuse, and had less superior talent. Absolutely. He had inferior talent in Syracuse and still showed great capabilities at the quarterback position.
No, I mean, he led Syracuse to a 10-3 record starting 13 games after transferring away from Ohio State, to which, I mean, the previous year, 2023, he led them to an 11-1 record, but I guess something just didn't click when it came to the talent aspect or the coaching aspect or even the school aspect. When he was in Syracuse, I mean, you just seen in his play, he felt more composed, he felt more calm, he felt more confident, especially in the pocket. And he's got the mindset of a gunslinger. He may not have the arm talent of a gunslinger, but the guy can throw it. The guy has arm talent, with the amount of passing attempts that he had, and the fact that he actually made history last year in his lone season at Syracuse. He broke the ACC single season passing yards record with 4,779 passing yards. So he now holds the record, and the previous record was held by Deshaun Watson, who threw for 4,593 yards. That was back in 2016. I believe that was Watson's last year. So McCord goes to show when he went to Syracuse, I mean, he's able to throw the ball. He's got that arm talent. Now, and he's also able to make a big play. He's able to make the big play, make the big time throws. But when it comes to a gunslinger, yeah, you can throw the ball, but there carry some concerns about turnover-worthy plays. In last year, he actually led the Power 5 in turnover-worthy plays. So that's something that does carry a bit of a concern when it comes to McCord and his mentality, but I'm all for a gunslinger mentality, and many people have honestly compared it to Baker Mayfield-esque, since Mayfield has always been about throwing the football and just, launching the ball and getting rid of it and throwing the deep ball. What Baker's doing over at Tampa Bay now, it seems to be working for him and working for Tampa Bay in general. I mean, it's a new lease on life for Baker, and that's what Kyle McCord needed for Syracuse, honestly, transferring from Ohio State. And the guy, again, he's got the arm talent. But the only thing that, he's going to be coming in to do is, of course, play the backup role. He's not going to be a day one starter. He's nowhere near close to that. He may not be anywhere close to that anytime soon. It may take a couple years, but he would just come in solely as a backup. But there's no denying that, there is something to McCord in his arm talent, and he showcased that last year for sure.
Yeah, and one thing I like about McCord is how quick he's able to release the football. He doesn't hold on the ball too long. He gets rid of the ball very quick. He's got a good zip, good release. I will also mention on him releasing the ball too quick is you notice a lot in these clips, and you notice a lot in his tape. He does typically go with his first read, and if his first read doesn't work, he almost scrambles. And I don't mean scramble out the pocket. He just scrambles mentally. Where do I put the ball now? Where does the ball go? So he needs to work on not relying on his first target. He needs to work on not work on scanning the field. But I feel like him coming in as the backup, maybe competing with Mason. Nobody knows what the future holds at the quarterback position. Nobody knows what the future holds for Aaron Rodgers at this point. Aaron Rodgers doesn't even know at this point. But you bring him in, you have him compete with Mason, and you see what you got. You see what you got in those two guys. You see what the future holds for the 2025 season. And that's why we do like a guy like McCord, because I see a little Mason tendencies with him. He doesn't have the arm strength that Mason has, but, in terms of accuracy and the way he likes to throw the ball and how he's very confident with the ball in his hands, I like that attitude from him. And I feel like we need to have that as a backup option. That's why we like a guy like McCord here in the 5th round, somebody the Steelers did bring in for a top 30 visit. And again, if they're going to select a quarterback, I figure it'd be someone that they have a lot of familiarity with, particularly someone that they brought in pre-draft.
Yeah, and McCord, he carries a good attitude and a good mindset that I'm sure, any team would rally behind and whatnot. And, he's, in my opinion, one of the more intriguing quarterbacks in this class. And there's not, a lot that's intriguing to me. There's a handful. I would say McCord's definitely in the category of intrigue to me, even as a backup. He does possess some talent that, is something that you can't give up on, even as a backup.
No, man. And I like his mentality. I like his effort. I like his leadership. There's not many quarterbacks that, impress us in this draft class. We looked at a lot of people's tape. There's only less. There's about a handful of quarterbacks that we favor in this draft class, and you still have a couple fingers left. McCord is one of them. And I feel like in the 5th round, if they don't go quarterback before then, I feel like they can get someone very, very good in McCord in the 5th round here. And that's exactly what we do. So we go quarterback in the 5th round in this mock. 2 more picks in this mock. We have a 6th round pick, the 185th pick. A position I think the Steelers should consider taking is, no matter whether it's corner, whether it's safety, it's the secondary. I think we need depth. I think we need, a special teams guy initially. And we need somebody that could build his way up, someone that could be a good rotational guy, someone that you could have faith in case of injury, somebody that we can very much rely on in that room. And that's what we do in the 6th round here. We don't go corner, but we go safety. The reason we go safety here and not corner is because I'm back and forth with the corner position. And in our last mock, we traded back and took Jacob Parrish in the 3rd round. And I would very much love that option. But you also got to think maybe the Steelers are very complacent. Maybe the Steelers are happy with their corner room. They got, Joey Porter Jr., Darius Slay, Corey Trice, James Pierre, Brandon Eccles, Ryan Watts. They got bodies in there that they very well might be pleased with. In the safety area, you got Minka, you got Elliott, you got Killebrew, who's primarily only special teams. You have maybe Ryan Watts that can move there, and they brought in Juan Thornhill. But I feel like we could still add depth in those areas. And you got to think, nobody knows what the future holds for a guy like Elliott or Thornhill, who are both coming in on 1-year contracts, right?
Especially a guy like Elliott, not to cut you off, but especially a guy like Elliott who stood out big time last year as a great free agency addition. But you also look at the TJ Watt situation, the fact that he for sure is going to want to be extended, and the Steelers, of course, are going to want to keep him. And, Watt is absolutely deserving of being the highest paid edge defender for sure. And Watt's going to want that money. And it's like, where does that leave the Steelers when it comes to a guy like Elliott to potentially keeping him with the team? Because I feel like Elliott's a guy that they should keep around, but when it comes to the cap situation, having to pay a guy like Watt, like that situation is kind of a little bit uncertain.
Well, I don't think Elliott would be that expensive, but I get where you're going with, because you just never know. You just never know. And I'm not saying you're going to find the next starter in the secondary in the 6th round. We're just adding bodies here. We're adding good depth. And I feel like a player that we're going to select here is someone that's not getting talked about enough.
Now, many people have honestly considered this person that we took in the 6th round as one of the bigger sleepers of day 3. And this is a guy that, when it comes to his play style, I like a lot.
Oh, me too. I think he's versatile. I think he's very reliable. You can place him anywhere. He was a 2-time team captain with his team with a lot of special teams play. He's someone that could come in, and anywhere the Steelers want to play him and put him, I think he will make the Steelers a very happy very, very happy team for selecting him. So with the 185th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Malachi Moore, safety out of Alabama. Like we mentioned, two-time team captain in 2023 and 2024. His tape, man, what I like about his tape is you see how much of a underrated playmaker he is. You know, he's all over the field. He's got great range, good coverage ability. He's very good at reading the quarterback's eyes from the backfield, making plays, whether that's forcing fumbles, whether that's making an interception, whether that's playing the run. I feel like he can play anywhere between the slot, playing deep, whether playing in the box as a run defender. This is somebody the Steelers can use as a Swiss Army knife in dime packages, as like 3 safety sets. You know, somebody that they could use for the future in those 3 safety sets, in those rotational roles. Somebody that could see a lot of time on the field pretty early just because of how versatile and how productive he is anywhere he wants to be played.
Yeah, Moore, he may not be the most athletic, the fastest, or even the biggest defensive back out there, but there's no denying the fact of his versatility. He's no stranger to being moved around all around the defense, you know, in the slot, in the box, even deep at times. People have praised more about is his high football IQ, and it's something that you want in a defensive back, especially an Alabama defensive back, and we have one of those, and why not bring in another one of an Alabama defensive back and more? Again, versatile. He's got very good coverage capabilities. He's very good at that.
Yeah, and what I like about him, what I think the Steelers like about him is, you know, his tangibles, you know, his tendencies as a defensive back, you know, the qualities and the capabilities that he brings to the table on day one from his experience in Alabama, and how he was used a lot as that star player, and how he, you know, was a leader in the locker room, and, you know, a lot of the special team snaps that he saw. I think the Steelers are going to have all eyes on a guy like Malachi Moore, especially since they sent, you know, the house to the Alabama Pro Day, which is a usual, but they also sent scout Ike Taylor, Steelers legend. Malachi Moore, I believe, will be on the Steelers' radar, and if they want to go safety and add extra bodies and add more playmakers to that room, I feel like Malachi Moore in the 6 would be a very underrated selection for the secondary, primarily as depth, but somebody that could see some significant time on the field if he builds his way up. That's why we like a guy like Malachi Moore a lot in the 6th round here. A very underrated sleeper that I don't think is getting talked about a lot.
No, and the Steelers have very, you know, sneakily, if that's even a word, have looked more so at the defensive back, especially in the day 3 category. So, you know, I can see the Steelers for sure wanting to add another body for depth purposes, you know, with some upside and whatnot, but to get them in there for special teams, bringing them for depth, see what they can do, you know, showcase their capabilities in the black and gold and whatnot. And I feel like, you know, bolstering the secondary is a must for sure.
Agreed. Now we have one more pick in this mock, the 229th pick in the 7th round. Literally, this can go anywhere. We addressed defensive line twice. We addressed wide receiver, running back, safety. What's left? What's left? Well, this could go anywhere. We still elect to go in the trenches once again because I feel like that's going to be the Steelers' main tendency. It has been for a while now, or it has been for the last couple of years. You notice they took Jones, Benton, they took Fatanu, McCormick, Zach Frazier last year. That, you know, they're building a lot of the trenches, man. They're not really shying away from building those pieces, whether that's as future starter roles, as future, you know, cornerstones for the team, or even as depth reasons. And that's what we do here in the 7th round. We go O-line depth. This is just a camp body. This is someone that they're going to add to that room. Maybe be a potential future swing guy. Maybe someone that can push a Dylan Cook or a Calvin Anderson, who they just re-signed. I don't know exactly if re-signing Calvin Anderson to a 2-year deal is going to take tackle off the board entirely, but if they want to push it back, put it on the back burner, and still address it later, in their 7th round, they could find somebody that is very versatile, someone that can play both sides, someone they can build up, someone that could be a camp body, work, and just add more people to that room, to that area, and, you know, maybe could build his way up. And I wouldn't sleep on a guy like him in the 7th round because of his experience, because of his starting experience. So in the 7th round, the 229th pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon, tackle out of Florida. 41 starts at right tackle, 5 at left tackle, 46 career starts collegiately at both tackle positions, man.
And that's over 4 years at college. Now, I was at San Diego State, 3 years over at San Diego State before transferring over to Florida last year. And he really, really showcased his talent right there.
Yeah, now obviously he is more predominantly right tackle, like we mentioned, 41 starts at right tackle, and that's what he's most familiar with. But if the Steelers want to toss him over at left, and the Steelers love to do that with their tackles, he's no stranger there. He has some experience. He has a little bit of in-game experience there as well. So I feel like the Steelers wouldn't shy away from putting him at that position. I feel like, for a future depth piece, that's exactly what we're looking for. We need that swing depth guy. We don't really have that. Maybe Calvin Anderson, but, a little experience in the offense, a little experience playing time with the Steelers. I don't know if there's that much trust. I personally don't have a lot of faith or trust in any of our depth. I'm hoping and praying that Fatanu and Broderick can stay healthy and they pan out. Otherwise, we have a serious tackle problem. That's why we like a guy like Crenshaw Dixon here in the 7th, because of his starting experience, because of his tenacity at the line, the way he's able to protect the quarterback, the way he is such a very good run blocker. He's not the most mind-blowing tackle. He's not somebody that I don't think is going to challenge for a starting role, but is someone that would fulfill a position in need, which is depth, which is swing capabilities. And I really like his ferociousness at the tackle position.
Yeah, and Anderson being resigned to a 2-year deal, if I had to be real, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. But then again, thinking more about it, because before they resigned him, they didn't have exactly a true swing tackle depth piece for Jones and Fatanu. They have Dylan Cook, but he's never seen any actual regular season time before, and he's primarily right tackle. I don't even know if he has much experience over at left tackle. So, just to re-sign a guy like Calvin Anderson, who is a swing player at this current stage of his career, I guess, it's better to have somebody than nobody and whatnot. But I feel it should not take tackle off the board, even in the later rounds. And a guy like Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, many years of starting and many, snaps. I think, within the 4 years he's played, he's accumulated over 3,000 offensive snaps.
Wow.
So he is no stranger to having to be on the field and having to play and whatnot, whether that's over at right tackle primarily or even left tackle. That's the big thing that pops out about his play. It's his swing ability. And I'm very adamant about, bringing in a young talent with swing capabilities and a reliable swing tackle at depth. And I think Crenshaw Dixon carries those tangibles and carries that to a T. And you just look at his build and his size, 6'7", 316 pounds. I mean, that is a big body tackle right there. That's a Mike Tomlin tackle right there.
Yeah, that's a massive frame, along with, someone that's quick, that's very agile, and someone that, like I mentioned, is he plays angry at the line. Somebody that I think would fill in as a good camp body, as a good depth piece, and then could build his way up. Maybe see some time on the field as an extra goal line guy because of his frame. Maybe see some time in some rundown situations.
And his ability to really have a knack for anticipating potential blitzes and whatnot. And that goes to show, his intelligence as an offensive lineman. He's able to communicate with his linemen, which is, very, very key when it comes to offensive line. And we had many communication problems with the offensive line for many, many years. And even, for him to carry that even as a backup, as long as somebody brings that to the offensive line, somebody brings that knack to the equation for the offensive line, I'm all for that. Whether you're a starter or a backup, just please bring that, because the communication is absolute key when it comes to the offensive line. He's somebody that brings that. He knows how to, anticipate potential blitzes and whatnot. And he's very capable of protecting his quarterback when it comes to pass protection and even, making a lane for his running back. So Dixon is a very, very solid tackle when it comes to depth purposes, and maybe even some upside if he can work his way up there.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's someone the Steelers are going to have on their radar based off of his playing time, his starting experience, his agility at the position, and, his swing capabilities. I think the Steelers are going to have eyes on him. If they want to go tackle later, this pick could go anywhere else. If they want to go corner, if they want to go for maybe another receiver, they want to go anywhere else, maybe they triple dip on the D-line. Lord knows. They can go anywhere with this pick, but this is only if they trade back, which I do think, as we get closer to the draft, very much like the Shedeur Sanders situation where people were getting their hopes up that he might fall, very close to, as we inch closer to the draft, I think trading back is also a very realistic possibility, just because Steelers keeping all their options on the table. Maybe they're doing it. Maybe they're doing it as a smokescreen to acquire, more trade capital if they do trade back, which I'm sure they will entertain trade back options, seeing that they don't have a pick in the second round, and there will be a couple teams that'll be willing to trade up, which is why we go with a team like the Texans, seeing the wide receiver needs in the conference for them, for the Chargers, who'll be on the board, and who the Steelers have brought in for visits pre-draft, and who they've shown interest in, who they've talked to, who they've looked at, the prospects that they have really considered. A lot of day 2 picks there, a lot of second round guys that I don't know if are going to fall all the way down to 83. That's why we trade back here, and that's why we go with the mock that we did here. So we go, to recap, Derek Carman with the 25th pick, while still getting the 79th pick from the Texans to select Jalen Noel. Then with the 83rd pick, we go DJ Giddens. 123rd pick, we go Jamari Caldwell to pair back with Derek Carman. With the 156th pick, we go quarterback with a guy like Kyle McCord. 185th pick, we go Malachi Moore to add more to the secondary, add more depth and versatility there, and add a camp body and a future swing tackle with the 229th pick with a Brandon Crenshaw Dixon. So let us know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. This is our final Steelers mock draft of the 2025 draft season, man. It's a little bittersweet because no more mocks.
No more, but that just means that we're inching closer to the NFL draft. We are inching closer to seeing who the next breed of Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be.
Yes, but if you guys have any of your thoughts on this mock or any of your last-minute mocks for the Pittsburgh Steelers, feel free to put that in the comments below. Love to hear your guys' opinions and any other prospects that you think the Steelers should consider or you should draft, or any of your more favorites in any round. Let us know down in the comments. Love to hear your guys' ideas, interactions, and thoughts as always. We appreciate you guys. With that being said, this is our final Steelers mock draft for probably several months now. So up until then, appreciate you guys for following us on another draft season, another NFL draft process, which is coming to an end. The NFL draft will be here on Thursday. You guys know we will be live Thursday night and Friday night for nights 1 and 2. It'll be very interesting to see who the next pair of Steelers are going to be. It's going to be a very interesting couple nights. That's all I'm going to say. Regarding so many positions, regarding so many prospects, it's going to be a very intense watch for a lot of reasons, and I can't wait. And can't wait to share it with you guys and see you guys in the live chat. So appreciate you guys. Let us know your guys' thoughts and your final mocks down in the comments below. And see-yins on the next one. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!